Okay, so good evening, everyone, and thanks for attending. This is our third and should be the last safety briefing for Lifton this year. We probably won't go the full hour. It's typically been kind of 30, 40 minutes, depending on questions. Our objective, as always, is to have a safe lift-in. Of course, with this year, with COVID, even more important, and there's going to be a few extra rules in that to follow to make sure that we're doing it not only safely from a lift point of view, but safely from a COVID point of view as well. So I'm going to hand it to Doug in a moment. He's going to go through a series of slides that covers what needs to happen before the lift, during the lift, a little bit about just the wise things to do for each of the roles, and a little bit about after, including if you're involved in any of the work with the cradle. So we cover it all. It's a smaller group tonight, so if you have questions or concerns, you can probably just interject or wait till Doug pauses for a sec. And then, of course, we'll have time at the end. Again, we want to make sure everybody's comfortable with what's planned. I would imagine that everyone has seen by now that our May 13th date is deferred at the moment. And we're just looking at whether we're probably going to aim for either the 20th or the 27th. We can actually have the crane available either day. The debate right now is we don't know what's going to happen with lockdown orders, and therefore what position the marina may feel the need to take. So we'll figure that out and be out shortly with what the next date is that we're going to aim for, so we give people as much time as possible to get set up for it. So thank you for your patience as we sort through that one. Otherwise, everything else is pretty lined up to go. Sean's done a great job at coordinating, had lots of help as well. And I think everyone's looking forward to making it back into the water. Okay, Doug, over to you.
Hey. Okay. Oops. Which one have I done here? I always seem to have trouble with this. Maybe I click on the wrong one. Okay. So yeah, so this is the lift in for this spring. And what we're going to go through are the general safety requirements, which will be a little different. For those of you who've never done this before, this will be completely new. But for those of you who have experience in the past, things will be similar, but we're trying to do this at a very slimmed down procedure to keep groups to a minimum. So the work shifts start at 6:30 in the morning and at 12:30. All the volunteers should be wearing hard hats. You should, for those working in the compound, they have to wear safety boots. And for those, the responsibility of the members is to be properly equipped. So this includes masks, and if you want to wear eye protection, that's up to you. We'll also have some masks, extra masks available if you run out. Dress for the weather and bring heavy work gloves. The rules on the pier are for COVID-19 are on launch day. Only those with duties assigned by the RC facilities will be allowed in the main part of the pier. So you would have received a worksheet that would tell you what your jobs are. And if you're allowed, if you're on the pier, or if you're in a work group, then you should be, you'll be allowed on the pier. Otherwise, don't bring friends for this. Try to keep it as slimmed down as possible. Dock crews will be limited to 10 and shouldn't intermingle. Owners will meet the boats at the pier. So in the past,
Sorry, I
yeah,
think we need this slide to advance.
well, it's not.
No, we're still on safety at BSBC.
Oh,
But I'm wondering, you might be sharing, what look
the
like
wrong
PowerPoint
one.
that you're sharing. It looks like more like a file viewer.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe
Okay.
stop your share and then just share again and make sure you pick your PowerPoint.
You are screen
That's
sharing.
better. Now you got it.
Okay, sorry. So again, masks, extra masks will be available, and you should be wearing work gloves and dress for the weather. We never know what's going to happen. On launch
I
days,
have a question. This is
yeah,
Serge about the hard hat. Do we have to wear the
yes,
hard hat as well?
yes. So everybody should be wearing a hard hat if they're on the pier. We had a question about boat movers. We'd like them to also wear hard hats. We do have some spares if it's necessary. The club has some spare hats if you can't afford it or if you don't have one. So as I said again, owners will meet their boats at the pier. This is sort of valet boat lift. So the idea is that there will be a crew working in the compound who will attach the slings to your boat. Then your boat will get lifted and you will march over by the crane, the mast crane, and your boat will be put in the water, and then you will be able to get on move your boat up the pier, and you can get your motor started, they'll arrange to meet you when you arrive on the dock. There won't be any breaks, or there will be breaks, but there won't be breaks with donuts and coffee. So you should plan on bringing your own. No lunch will be provided. In past years, we've always had hamburgers and things, but that won't be happening this year. You'll receive a safety questionnaire that's important for us for being able to maintain contact tracing requirements. So you will be emailed a copy and you can fill it out and bring a hard copy with you. There will be a hand washing station on the pier. Again, masks will be worn at all times, social distancing practiced. Public will be excluded from the work areas as much as possible. It's a public park, but we'll try to keep people away as much as possible. Owner access will be limited. So again, you'll have to plan for not being able to get to your boat until it gets actually in the water. Cruise sizes will comply with COVID rules for construction gatherings. That means about 10. So for launch preparation, and these are items that need to be completed before launch day. On the day of launch, owners will meet their boats again at the pier. Ensure that all sling locations are properly identified and marked on the hull. You should attach fenders and ensure that there are 4 control lines that have been secured to the vessel and a length of 15 to 20 feet, 4.5 to 6 meters. They shouldn't have knots or loops or anything else in them, so that as the boat passes over the barbed wire of the compound, they can't get caught in it. Access on the work site. Owners to be on the site about an hour before your expected lift. Lifts are scheduled to be going about every 8 minutes, so it's going to be pretty fast. So you should be, it could go faster than we expect, or it could slow down a bit. But you have time air date for your boat, and that should be you should be there at least an hour before that. with your safety check. Only lift crew appointed by the RC facilities will be permitted inside the compound perimeter for the duration. That means there will be a total of about 10 people in there. One of them will be the member of the crane company who has direct connection to the crane operator. There'll be 4 people who will be working, volunteers, be working on the straps, and 1 person in front and 1 person in the stern to guide, to give instructions, getting the boat out. The number of persons inside the compound should never exceed the permitted by public health and COVID regulations. Limited numbers of relief crew members will be available. So we have figured on about 10 people, 10 crew, 10 members of the will be comprise the compound crew, and 3 of them will be sitting waiting as if they're needed for any reason or to spell people off if necessary. On the day of the mast hoist will be locked on the day of the lift, so there won't be any access to getting masts. The issue there really is that there are a lot of cradles left in the compound, and until the cradles have been collapsed, it's going to be and moved out of there, it's going to be very difficult to move any masts. And the launch sequence, the compound crew members will attach the sling. So in the past, the owner has usually been on the boat and they're able to attach the straps as it arrives, and they're handed up. Well, that will be done by one of the crew members on the in the compound. They'll just use ladders and get on your boat. Prior to lifting, warn the crew to avoid placing hands between the sling and the hull of the vessel. And again, only the crew leader, who's the person who is actually communicating directly with the crane operator, will be giving any hand signals. The control lines ensure that the vessel doesn't swing as it's lifted. Sometimes we've had pretty windy days, but generally it's not really a big problem. But the idea is we don't want bullets bumping into other boats. The dock crews, people who will be receiving the boats as they fly over the compound. The safety near the water is paramount. You should be wearing a life jacket, boat shoes, and heavy work gloves, and again, a hard hat. Again, only the crew leader gives hand signals. They're the people who directly operate with the crane driver. The dock crew will use the control lines that were attached to the boat to position the vessel as it's lowered into the water. And again, there's a big lift. As the lift occurs, we don't want anybody walking under a vessel. The dock crew are responsible for assisting with the cast off once the boat is launched. So it arrives, it's tied up, and then the slings, usually the boats, it just slide out of the slings, and then the boat's moved up the dock where it will meet the owner. Cradle disassembly. This will be occurring on days 2 to 4. Well, I guess really it's only going to be doing it on day 2 now, I think. Boat owners will be advised when cradles can be moved to storage. Usually starting, if this goes on a Thursday, then Thursday evening, the compound will be empty except for cradles, and people could start disassembling them at that point or folding them up. I think Saturday or Friday would be the day when it will be most advantageous to come in and fold up your cradle. Saturday, I think, is planned for using the tow motor to pick up cradles and stack them in the parking lot. After removal of the cradles is complete, the mast hoist will be unlocked. That is assuming that we can put masts up and that the COVID regulations haven't intervened. That's been a bit of a thought problem for us at the moment. In the days after launch, will be available for owners to collapse their cradles and prepare them for storage. The separate crew volunteer hours will move and stack and load the cradles for transport. So this is not something, this is extra time that you work as to your volunteer hours. Again, disassembly of the storage cradle is the responsibility of the owner. It's the responsibility also of the owners to retrieve pads, ladders, items that will be stored, that won't be stored with the cradle. We've also asked that people detach everything from the cradle, and if they use bits of lumber or whatever, those should be stacked on, or adjacent to the cradle or taken home if they can't be easily managed, because the cradle crew can't keep track of all the odd bits of lumber that that we use to shore up the boats over the winter. So again, remember that you need to deal with your ladder, and it should be unlocked from your cradle and stored on the fence before you actually we actually start lifting boats, just to make it easier for people to in the cradle crews or the sling crews who are going to lift the boats, to get them out of the get the ladders out of their way so that they're not encumbrances. The forklift is used to retrieve the cradles, and we only allow certified forklift operators to drive and maneuver the forklift on BSBC property. The operator will avoid actions that could cause the load to shift and swing, and drive slowly, especially on slippery or wet surfaces. The cradles, when they are being moved, they can swing, and so every attempt is made to make sure that they don't create a hazard. So they are attached with 4 slings attached to the cradle, each cradle, and then there are 2 control lines, and 2 people using the control lines walk along beside the cradle as it moves out of the compound and into the parking lot. Holding control lines, walk with the cradle parallel to the track of the forklift. Always be aware that of other persons or vehicles in the yard. And this is just to make sure they're usually blocked off so that people can't drive through, but you never know what's going to happen down there. When stacking the folded cradles for transport, the storage areas use extreme caution to secure the cradles from slipping. The responsibility of loading the cradles onto a truck to go up to the north compound is that's the responsibility of the driver, the crane driver. But until he arrives, we just want to make sure that the stacked cradles don't end up slipping because somebody has climbed around on them. So just to summarize what the key things that we need to remember, all volunteers must wear a hard hat. Crew members working with the crane crew and the cradle crew must work with safety boots. COVID regulations apply, masks and distancing. It's a responsibility of the member to be properly equipped and bring heavy work gloves with you and dress for the weather. And I think that's about it. There's probably some questions. These are the people. Sean Barrington is RC Facilities, and this is his email. Mark Reed and I will be going around being COVID police, trying to keep everybody under control. So that's it. If anybody has any questions, fire away.
I have a question, if you can hear me.
Yes?
When you were talking about the ladders being unlocked,
Yeah.
you'd mentioned putting them up against the fence. So I take it that you do not want it put up next to the boat so they can get on to put the hook on the,
No, there will be ladders around available that will be people will be able to use. It's just we don't want it's your ladder. We don't want it to be in the way. And
Yep.
if you can lock it to the fence, then you know where it's going to be when you come to
Correct.
collect it.
yes,
If we just leave ladders lying around, then they could get moved all over the place and something will
absolutely.
take
True.
a walk.
What would be the best? What would be the best location to lock the ladders? At what part of the fence?
Well, there are spaces between the where masts are located directly to the fence, or maybe even on the outside of the fence would be okay.
Or if you want, maybe over toward the sail school, because we're not going to be going in and out of there, or over toward the ice machine. There's a bit more space over there.
Yeah.
Just as long as they're out of the way. We just don't
Yeah.
want them laying around on the cradles, because then the guys loading the boats and working on around the cradles might trip on them or something, and we don't
Yeah.
need that.
Yeah, that's
No.
clear.
And
Yeah.
and in fact, I mean, even if you're so lift in will very likely be on a Thursday. So if you're there on the Wednesday, making sure that everything's good to go, your lines are on, your fenders are on, etc., you could even take your ladder home that day,
True.
right? Because we're only going to need a couple of them in the compound on the actual lift day.
True.
And then when you come back down Friday, in order to collapse your cradle, that's when you can take your pads and any blocking and things like that home.
So is there going to be someone to sort of put in the restrictions for the COVID so that we're not all down there on Friday at the same time, or is it not going? Is there enough room for us to move around and with
So
obviously with
Friday,
ma-
yeah, Friday
No.
Friday pretty much applies as we have all last year, with the with the maximum of 25 in the compound.
Okay.
I think just make sure you're masked up, you keep your distance, go in, do your cradle, leave, right?
Okay.
Don't hang around. Same applies on lift day. Most of you check the schedules, but most of you should find that you're lifting. If you're lifting in the morning, you're working in the morning. If you're lifting in the afternoon, you're working in the afternoon. So for the most part, you're going to temporarily come off your shift, get your boat over to the dock. Don't go for a tour, right? You'll get a ticket, marine unit. So off the pier, into your dock, come back over and back onto your shift. And as soon as you're done your shift, head home, right? So if you lifted in the morning, please resist the urge to go sit on your boat for the afternoon. Okay.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
All right. Yep.
The current regulations, and we don't know what's going to happen after the 20th of May,
I know.
but
I-
the current regulations say that we don't, we shouldn't be putting a mast in, and the boats, once they're tied up, nothing else should be happening. We're still working on how that's going to, if people will be able to put their masts up and leave them on the boat while they're finished preparing them and putting sails on and everything till when we are actually allowed to use our boats in the harbor or on the lake.
Okay.
So you're saying we have to postpone putting masts on the boats until the regulations are allowing us to sail?
So Alex, we're working on the interpretation of that. So I got a little bit back today from the city, and they seem to align with what we were thinking in terms of putting your mast up is part of preparing your boat, not part of using your boat. And so that would suggest that it would be okay to do it. Harbor West, I think, has, or RHWC, one or the other, have actually told their members they cannot use their mast hoist. So I think, so for as much as we have that from the city, I probably want to hear something very similar from likely the Marine unit or the region itself, because those are the folks that are giving out tickets. So stay tuned on that one. And again, it could all change if the, depending on what they do with the lockdown as well. But we're going to try and get the members as much guidance as we can on that. I don't want people that, putting their masks up thinking it's okay, and then all of a sudden a cop shows up and gives them an $800 ticket, right? Nobody needs that.
Would it not be prudent to ask the city of Burlington for clarity on their okay to put the masks up?
That's who I've asked, and I've got their thoughts on the matter, but it's clear to me that they're not very definitive on it. So
Okay.
that's why I kind of want to hear from the city and hear probably from the Marine unit.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want somebody down there and all of a sudden, we got a whole bunch of we got boats lined up and people being careful. The city did say even if they allow it, it has to be careful. And then all of a sudden the Marine unit pulls in and starts handing out tickets. Like that'd just be a mess, right?
Yes.
Okay,
So depending on what we get out of that, we'll probably just leave the mast hoist locked until we're reasonably sure that people aren't going to get tickets, and then we'll open it up.
sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Scott,
Yes.
any word on transporting your boat on the water to its home marina if BSBC is not going to be its home marina?
Yeah, you're thinking of Mike.
Yeah.
I talked to him already. Actually, we've traded a lot of emails with Mike lately. I think he would be, if he tried to go to Toronto, I think he'd be severely taking his chances. I did direct him to Colin to talk to Colin about getting a temporary dock.
Yeah,
Right.
Colin said no problem, but
Yeah, I think he'd be much better to do that until the order of being able to use your boat is actually lifted.
Sure.
Otherwise, he's like a target all the way over to Toronto, right? 25 miles of, am I going to get a ticket?
yeah,
I wouldn't do that. Yeah,
I sold it to him and my God, it's been sitting there ever since.
I know he's anxious. He's anxious.
Yeah.
On,
Yeah, I would
on-
already.
sorry, on lift-in day, are we allowed to have one or two people help us, or is it just the boat owners only and that's that?
It's just yourself, Mike, and frankly, that's all you need, right? So the club, it's a self-help club, so everybody else is there to kind of do things around you. There'll be people on the pier to help cast you off. There'll be people over on the docks to help catch. If you do, for whatever reason, need kind of like a special arrangement on something, we've got a couple of people with rather funky sling setups. So, we're going to kind of escort them in and get them set up and then out again. There's one individual that is a bit mobility challenged. So, he's going to have someone with him on the boat in order to bring it over. So we know about things like that. If you or anyone else has a similar requirement, just let Sean or I know, and we'll work with you to figure it out.
Okay, thanks.
So Scott,
Yep.
there is like the owner of the boat is doing the driving, and usually there was a person that would jump on and go across to the slip so that they could throw the line over to the folks on the dock, or on the docks slips. Is that going to be in place or no?
We're going to try and avoid the jump on, jump off person.
Okay.
Yeah. we're fairly, I mean, you know, unless it's bad weather, I mean, if it's that bad, we probably won't be lifting, but unless it's bad or a special circumstance, we feel it should be enough to, a couple of people cast them off and a couple of people there to catch, and we should be okay.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay.
I think
all right.
some of the bigger boats are going to have a little bit of a challenge with that.
Yes.
Especially if somebody is driving their boat, coming to the slip, and they're driving their boat and they need to take the lines at the bow and throw them onto the docks because the lines typically then are not already on the dock as they might be if you were just coming out of the slip in a regular season situation. So I don't think that is a good safety precaution for boats getting damaged. I think you might want to rethink that.
Okay. Well, I mean, you know, if there's a concern, I mean, you know, we'll flex a little bit. We have to be careful. The part of the reason why we don't want too many people kind of going over and back again is the intermingling of crews, right? So, anyway, you know, I hear you, and nobody's looking to damage boats or get into trouble. So if there's a situation that needs someone, that's why we've got some extra people around, and you know, they'll be able to hop on and go.
Okay.
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 Because I have a feeling I would like to have someone on to throw the line as well.
Okay.
I'm not a big, huge boat, but I feel more comfortable.
Okay. All right. So just, you know, that morning when we're picking it up, just, you know,
Yep.
say
Okay.
so. And okay. We've got a
I-
few extra around for
Just-
occasions like that, but we just can't afford to do it on all. That's all.
That's okay. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Yep. We're trying to be, as you know, we're trying to be safe. We're also trying to be a bit flexible. I
Yeah.
mean, some of this is all kind of written down and what's gone to the city as well.
Yep.
So they see the written plan, but you know, there's a little
Yep.
wiggle room and everything, right?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, folks? Okay, so stay tuned on your mail. We'll be out with dates shortly, I think, so people can start doing a little bit of planning. I would encourage just stay flexible on it. You know, I up until a few days ago, I really thought we had a good shot at the 13th, but you know, now I think it's going to be a little bit wait and see, unfortunately. But you know, stay tuned to your mail. When we will send the dates, we will a few days before lift in. We'll send the screening form that you need to print and fill and bring with you. Same applies if, by the way, you're helping with take down the fence the day before or the cradles or anything like that the days after. Bring that form again each day and give it to whoever is to lead that day, because that is for contact tracing as well. And then the other thing we're going to send is kind of a one-page schedule of here's each of the days and what's happening on each day, and some reminders, almost literally checklist approach, to make sure that you don't forget something for those days. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time, and see you soon at Lifting.
Yeah,
Thank you, Doug.
Scott. Thanks, Doug.
Yep.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Scott.
Well done.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
bud.
you very much
Bye.
for your work.